Imagine if every Sunday night you could create your perfect week. And what would that look like?
So it's a
I'm going to
question.
move you to the middle, and well, it's just the starting question of just take a second and picture that where you could create the perfect week next week, and what would that look like? And so today I'm going to give you some strategies and tactics that'll help you take that first step. It's like you said, it's a journey. Um, there are lots of life hacks on overcoming overwhelm. They might last for a fleeting minute or two, but they don't last for a long time. These strategies and tactics are more long term. And a year from now, hopefully, if you implement some of them, a year from now, you'll see a difference, Pasna. So today, I'm going to talk about what it is, core genius. We'll define that. Um, and then there's a few tools in order to help you discover yours. And basically, in the end, what this is doing is it's increasing your value, not only as the leader of your company, but like you said, you wear many hats, family hats, and back in the old text, the word avoda was used for work, celebrate, and serve. And that same word meant all three things. Back then, they had life balance. There was no differentiation between work and life. And it's Avodah, Avodah. Just a little bit about me. We talked some about it, but I'll do this for the recording. Spent 6 years as a manufacturing engineer with a Fortune 200 company. We made work uniforms, and I was fortunate enough, they asked me to start up their first offshore facility in Honduras, which was 5 times bigger than any U.S. plant. And there I had a team of engineers that worked with me. And like I said, I was the first franchisee of Image First and grew that from absolutely nothing. And when we sold it, we were doing $2.5 million in contracted revenue. During that time in Terrace Park, I was the fire chief and EMT. And the fire chief taught me a lot of leadership skills that you don't necessarily learn being in business. And currently, I am a SCORE mentor, and that helps you know all about SCORE, I imagine. And along with being a franchise consultant and my passion of being Allie and Steph's dad. A real quick story, Upasana, is and this person was a colleague of mine, and they owned a franchise. They were successful. They had it for 3 years. All of their KPIs were great. They were on their way to being one of the best franchises in the system. But the owner was completely burned out because even after 3 years, they were putting in 60 and 70 hours a week doing a lot of different things. They were still working heavily on the operations and the fulfillment side of their business. And frankly, they got to a point at their national meeting where they almost talked to somebody about selling it. So they got to that point, and it wasn't me, but they got with I just know about the story. They got with a executive coach, and what they did is they identified what she was doing on a daily basis. They broke it down. Um, she didn't, she knew what she was doing, but it wasn't in front of her in black and white to the point where it made her realize, oh yeah, I can get rid of this. I can delegate that. They went through this system of the core genius, and that's where I picked up on it. Eventually what happened was this person discovered their core genius was in training other people. and they were able to work with the franchisor on additional franchisee training that they found useful above and beyond what the franchisor was doing. Now, the definition of core genius. It's what you love to do and what you're great at doing, whether it's through experience, education, however you earn that expertise. It's your passion times your expertise. Think of this like being Michael Jordan. If you followed basketball at all, he was fantastic superstar back in the day. He'd get in the zone where it didn't matter. They could have all 5 guys of the other team guarding him, and he could go up for a shot and make it every time. When he was in that zone, nobody could stop him. This is the same analogy in the business realm, is when somebody is working in their core genius, time flies by, they lose track of time. They're very productive, extremely productive, and they get rid of the energy sucking tasks because they've identified it. This is all about everything else in leadership. It's about intentionality and focusing on what you can control and creating a plan to get rid of that. So why is it important to know what your core genius is? Number one, it helps you identify where you can delegate. One of the best attributes of a successful leader is training others so that they work themselves out of a job. Succession planning, when it's done right at the start of somebody's tenure of taking over a company or starting a company. You start with it's like we talk about, you start with the end in mind, and now it's a lot easier to make that and create that strategy to get there. When you're working in your core genius, you're also able to focus more on the strategic growth as opposed to the day-to-day operations of fulfillment. And also when you have a team and you're practicing this type of leadership, you're exemplifying leadership. When you are training others, you are showing them the value and the importance so that when they're leaders later on, they'll do the same thing. Then going back to my introverted side, and I always add a little bit extra because of that. An introversion to me means I'm not a hermit. It's just, I take longer to process. Impromptu conversations are a little bit strenuous for me and I have to work through them. So one of the things that I've found to do, especially in a leadership role, is you're always asked to do different things here and there. And can you do this and everything else all over the place? And one of the good attributes for a leader is setting boundaries. And you hear that all the time. Well, as an introvert, and in order to process it a little bit quicker, is I ask myself, is this something I get to do? Is this something I have to do? Or is this something I'm the only one that can do? And that kind of helps set boundaries. It's not a foolproof, but that's a quick little, I said this wasn't about